All right, hi everybody. This is Dr. Imfan Akpan. I hope everyone is doing well. And I wanted to share this video. I'm a big fan of David Andre, and I like to follow his work. And there's something that he was talking about it's close to me. Um, the digital divide, where we're going with all of this. Is there going to be sort of have and have nots when we come up as this technology develops and continues to evolve? I think there already is. I mean, you've got free plans, $200 a month plans, and there's many people that cannot afford these plans or don't want to pay for them. And I think what is happening is the more expensive plans, the paid plans, they're getting the best of the best. And it's creating more of a rift from where everything was free. And then now there's paid versions or paywalls that give you better access. So I think this is something that's important that we talk about, that we discuss and think about. You may think it's not really a problem, which is great, or some of you may say, hey, it is a problem. So let's look at this.
But now, for the first time ever, the best models are not getting released. And not only that, 2 companies got banned by the US government back to back. And I think that's very, very scary. And a lot of people don't realize the consequences of this.
So what do you think could be the consequences of this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think the consequences could be, first of all, that we, the people, are not going to get access to the latest models, right? Like the models are just going to be accessible to the US government, to the AI labs that created them, and maybe a handful of enterprise companies that are going to be paying them billions of dollars that can afford this, right? And that just means that like the permanent underclass is coming. There's no 2 ways around it. So for those who don't know what the permanent underclass is, it's basically like a philosophical concept where most of humanity live in an underclass. They live in the underworld where they don't have access to the latest technology. They're at a permanent disadvantage compared to everybody else.
So what he's saying is that the way that the new release, like of Fable 5, was taken back to be reviewed by the US government, ChatGPT 5.6 has been delayed for release, and some companies have access to it, and it's being reviewed by the US government. So you and I do not have access to it. So he's talking from a very high level, but this is very important because he's saying that either the very, very wealthy or very, very large corporations will have access to the latest technology, and then everyone else, so the general public, won't have access to it. Well, we don't have access to 5.6. And for me to add to it, the other layer is that beyond that, by the public having access, in the public, you've got the paying public. So there's some people in the public who will pay for it, or who are not able to pay for it or don't want to pay for it. So that's going to create more layers. So I think the layer he's talking about that's emerging now is that the government will have this super amazing technology, and billionaires or very wealthy companies will have it, but the general public will not have knowledge or access to it. What I'm adding on to that is the average person may not be able to afford to get access to it. So you need to have resources in order to get to the resources as well. So it's developing into multi layers.
Which is basically happening. Like, it's here. It's no longer a conspiracy theory. It's no longer just a theory. It's here. And right now, there's AI models that are intelligent than most people, that me and you, people watching this, don't have access to. It's only the people at the cutting edge AI companies and the US government, basically, that can use them.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, why should we have access to these models? Because we didn't build them.
Sure, we didn't build them, but like it's like any technology, right? Like printing press, why should the people read the, like before the printing press, a lot of people didn't even know what's in the Bible, and there were a lot of priests and a lot of clergy that were spinning the Bible for their own benefit. And because a lot of the people were illiterate, they were basically at that time in the permanent underclass. And only the few that learned how to read and write got out of the permanent underclass and could actually read these texts for themselves and realize what's in them, what the Bible actually says. This is the same thing right now. But the difference is that AI is maybe like the last technology, because if you solve AGI, everything else gets solved. So sure, we shouldn't have access to them, but it's like internet, right? Me and you didn't invent the internet, but it's a technology. And when a technology is sufficiently powerful, it should be distributed to everybody else. Otherwise, you have a handful of elites, a centralized government controlling the rest of the world. And that's like the dystopian story. 1984 times 10.
Okay, do you think this is because Alibaba is distilling all of the Anthropic models, all the GPT models, and that's why they're trying to put pressure on this?
No, that's massive cope. I think this is because of Dario Amodei's and others, but mainly Dario, constant fear-mongering, saying that AI is going to take away 50% of jobs, that AI is this super dangerous entity, naming the new model as Mythos instead of just Opus 5. They could have named it Opus 5, let's be honest. No, it's this Mythos, it's this mythical entity that's going to destroy us all. And also, I've heard a theory that they also might have trained it on cyber attacks on purpose, right? So like, not that like they discovered that it's powerful on cybersecurity, but that they trained it on purpose on cyber attacks just to scare off the people and the government. So that's a theory. But again, constant fear-mongering, constant saying that AI is going to take away jobs, that this is too dangerous to be released. The AI doom, the doomerism. This was very popular in 2023 and 2024. Now it's a bit less so. But these are the people who always wanted AI safety. They wanted AI regulated.
So this is where I disagree with Andre. And if you are really, let's take it back. So if you're really using AI, and if we go back, to November 30th, 2022, okay, we've got ChatGPT 3.5. So you got ChatGPT 3.5 released. Shortly thereafter, in 2023, you do hear this doom that it's coming for your jobs. You've got agents. You will have these agents. So there was a whole discussion. There was even a paper, AI 2027. And they were right. I mean, the agents are here. Long form tasks are here. The AI, I mean, if anyone is using Codex, I can't speak for Claude Cowork or Claude Code. If you use Codex, it can do tasks. I mean, it can work for you and it can do things for you on the computer. So when you think about someone that does computer work, knowledge work, are their jobs gone? No. However, is there something that can do their job? Yes. And I think, I don't think they were lying. I don't think that was overhype. I think also you have to remember, at minimum, the CEO or a company is, they're already at minimum, I would say 2 years to, on the other end of that, 5 years ahead of where we are and what we're seeing. Meaning either they've already got their products, their newer models are already up and running, and they have a whole plan for a pipeline of other models, and they know what their performance, and they have a pipeline of products that they're going to release. So I don't think it's, they're running by the hairs on their chin. And you have to remember, when ChatGPT 3.5 was released, they already had ChatGPT 4 trained and it was ready to go. And they were, if you listen to Sam Altman, he was saying that they were surprised how people were reacting to 3.5 because they had a much better model all ready to go with GPT-4. And now we're on 5.5 and we've got codecs, we've got apps and models that can run our computer. So I can only imagine what they have in the pipeline and what they know is coming. So has it taken jobs? No. Is there an impact on work and jobs? Definitely, I believe so. And I believe we probably have about maybe 3 years, possibly 2, could be a little bit more before things become widely adopted and more people start to use the technology. Because you have to think right now, ChatGPT-4 is old and outdated, but it's something that everybody has access to. They know how to use it, and it's commonplace. However, Codex isn't. And I think in the next 2 years, maybe 3, something like Codex or some sort of agentic platform will be commonplace or becoming more commonplace. And more people will be, definitely more people will be using it. Whether it becomes more commonplace, that's yet to see. How that impacts work, I think we're already seeing it as far as productivity in some areas. And I think that's only going to increase. And what I mean by productivity is that you've got people who are able to do more with less. So they're able to work more. So eventually, instead of having 5 employees on a team, you would actually need maybe 3 with AI, right? So if you think about it, okay, people say the cost. Well, you got 5 people, now you go down to 3, and your AI may cost the price of 1, but replaces 2. I think that's the way to look at it. So you've got 3 people there, but the AI is there as that 4th person instead of 5. I think that's one of the ways to look at it. That's how I'm looking at it right now. And then I think as learning curve and the models get better, that 3 plus the AI can become 2. So 1 person leaves, you won't hire another person, and you'll have those 2 people plus the AI. And then eventually it'll get better. And then you really only need 1 person or 1.5 people. You'll need someone there for redundancy. If that other person is, taking a vacation, is off sick, you need someone to be able to review the AI's work, to initiate systems and to function. So I think there's more to this than that. Good point, but I think there's more to it, and he could talk about
AI banned, and now it's happening. They basically asked for it. But the difference is, with Anthropic, it was deserved, right? They were fear-mongering, they were kind of on bad relations with the US government, not donating any money to Trump's campaign. So it kind of made sense that the US government went after Anthropic. But now, when it happened with OpenAI, literally 16 minutes before we started recording, OpenAI announced GPT 5.6. But it's in a limited preview. It's released to only a few partners that the US government approved, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's not going to me and you. It's going to billionaire enterprise companies that have connections to the US government. And that's it. So that's even more worrying because OpenAI did donate to Trump's campaign. They were not fear-mongering like Anthropic, and they are still getting banned. So I think this is the second warning from the universe in the last 2 weeks that we cannot rely on closed source AI, and that is not the answer, and that open source AI is the answer.
Okay, and what should people do about it now?
Yeah, but that's probably the question on most of people's minds, right? When you hear stuff like this and you understand that, okay, closed AI is not the answer, because again, maybe I should explain a bit more, because a lot of people don't realize the severity of this situation. When someone takes away your phone, your computer, your internet, your electricity, you are screwed. Like if that happened to you today, you would not be able to compete in business, in your job, in anything, right? If someone took away the computer, your car, your electricity, your internet, you would be completely handicapped. You would be crippled. In the future, if someone removes your AI access, it's going to be like that times 10. AI is advancing insanely fast. In 2, 3, 4, 5 years, AI is going to be at a level where if you don't have access to it, you're just going to be completely screwed. Like, it's going to be super intelligent. And if you don't have access to super intelligence, you're going to lose to somebody who has. Now, if the AI is closed source, if it's centralized, if it's hosted on a cloud, somebody who's controlling that, who's owning the cloud, or the creators of these models, those people can decide if you have access or not. And they basically hold your future in their hands. And the implication of that is that you're going to be basically slave to them. Unless you're self-hosting your own AI, unless you are able to host.
Here's another point I don't agree with. So I do agree with the fact that AI, with it, you're able to do more with less. So meaning, if you're using AI, it's particularly agents, because you can have an agent working when you sleep. So when you are using this, definitely you can get way more done than someone who's not using it. Because literally, the person who's not using any AI at all, they've got to sit at their computer. They've got to do their work. You're using your agents. You can be on your computer with your agent working on something else for you, or getting it started for you. May not be able to complete all, let's say get 80% of it done, but you're working on one thing while it's working on another. So you're able to super multi. It's like you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versions of yourself, because now you can have it working on 7 tasks at the same time. The other thing is, you can have it work. You can talk to your computer remotely. So I can go on my OpenAI app, talk to my computer, have Codex do things on my computer while I'm not around or at home doing something else. I'm at dinner, I'm out at the gym, what have you. It's working and I'm monitoring it. The other thing is sleeping. You can have it working while you sleep. So when you wake up, you've got something to review. It's done 80% of the work. So definitely, as far as that productivity, it's like you can multiply yourself. So you can definitely get a lot more done. It does take, what do they call that? Agentic maturity, where to delegate and let go. If you're someone that has employees, I think that it makes it a lot easier, because you understand how to delegate, and then you come in and you review the work. Now, is that going to stop someone from being able to compete? I don't think so. So, and what I mean by that is, if you have someone who works really hard and is really good at what they do, can they compete with someone that's using AI? Yes. Can they still do the work? Yes. May be hard. So it may take 3 days to get something done, whereas someone using AI can get it done in 1 day, but you can still get it done. What I think is going to happen, and I think the big challenge, and this is what I meant by the adoption, is that eventually the systems that were designed for humans to work are going to more and more be designed for more of a agentic platform. Because right now, agents are mimicking what humans do. eventually the platforms and software is going to be designed for agents. And I think more so, I was looking at, this was actually on Andre's channel, Magic Leap. So a platform where you can design web pages, apps, you can do all of that and do it with your agent or collaborate with someone individually, or collaborate with them and their agent, or their agent can do the collaboration. So I think we'll have more of those platforms where you can come in with your particular agent, and that's designed for that type of work. So the point with that is it's designed for that particular type of working style and workflow, more so than just a web page, or your computer, because I can't have my agent come in and join another agent, meaning there'll be more of these platforms where I can send codecs to the platform to do some work, and someone else can send Claude Cowork to do some work on this platform, and we can all collaborate in that way. So I think we'll see more of that. And I think that is going to be the bottleneck or the problem for people who are not using AI, because now you'll have interfaces more and more designed for agents or agentic workflow or human agentic workflow. And if you don't have access to them, if you're not used to using them, then that's where the challenges come in. Definitely the productivity piece is there. So, I mean, as far as productivity, yes, you can get things done, all things being equal. If one person has the same skill set as another person, but that person is using agentic AI, definitely they'll be more productive. But there's also a caveat to that, and that's your planning and system skill set. You may be more productive in, getting things done faster, but that also is limited by your skill set in managing the agent and being able to give it context and give it the information it needs to work while you're not around. So for example, it may take 3 hours for someone to really get its agent to plan with codecs to do, let's say, a complex project. That project would normally take maybe about 8 hours to do. So if you look at the planning and then the codecs working, that's 11 hours, sorry. However, someone else working on that, they would have a 3-hour head start because they started working on that project already. So then they may have 5 hours left. But here's where that person using codecs would win. They could do so for one person, that project may take them all day to work on, right? And to refine and to put together, but they've got a 3-hour start on the other person. But the other person can technically have 11 hours of work, 3 hours prep, 8 hours on the project, where the other person has 8 hours to complete that project. But the person using the agent can go to sleep and have the agent work on it for those 8 hours and then wake up and then review and edit and move forward. Whereas the other person would be working all day on that project. Or the person using the agent can spend that 3 hours planning and preparing and giving the context, and then they can work on something else while the agent is working on that project. So it gives you a little bit of a leg up. And I guess that's what I mean by, the productivity is there, but you also have to have the planning and the skills And I don't think it's large, but it's not as large as we think it is. It can be bigger, and let me take that back. When you look at it from like a 1 day, maybe 1 week perspective, but when you think about those wins over time, like that 8 hours that are not being used, or this 4 hours of advantage week over week over a year, definitely that is a huge boost and a huge advantage, and that compounds. The other thing I was going to say about that is learning curve. So the more and more you're using the agentic workflows and using AI with what you're doing, the better you get at it, the better you get at working with AI, the better you get with working in your space with AI, and then the models get better. So there's also that compounding effect as well, which pulls you away from someone who is not using AI, because they're starting at ground zero, and then they have to learn and figure things out. So definitely whoever is using it has an advantage until we get to the point where everyone's forced to use it. And then there's still that learning curve, but there'll be an advantage to it. This is interesting.
Their own models and train them and fine-tune them in the future. And again, it's not as obvious right now because AI is still not super intelligent. It's good. It's a lot better than it was 2-3 years ago, but it's still not super intelligent. So a lot of people don't realize it right now because they are not capable of long-term thinking. But if you extrapolate the exponential and you see how fast AI is advancing, and you realize that in 2-3 years, it's going to be like smarter than anybody you know, times 5, then you realize, okay, if someone takes away my access, I'm basically a slave to them. So the answer is the ability to self-host, to host your own AI models, to run them locally on the hardware that you own, so that nobody can take it away from you. It's the same idea like having solar panels, so that if the electricity grid goes down, you still have electricity.
It's pretty hard to tell that I'm AI, right?
Well, I want to show you how you can create me.
Do you agree that most open source models that are on the frontier today got there by distilling Claude, ChatGPT, all the best models?
I mean, partially, I think all of them distilled it,
so
but
if you agree with that, then how do you think these closed source models, open source models are going to stay on the frontier if they don't have access to them?
Well, okay, that's only data. Data is only one part of the equation, right? You have data, you have research, you have compute, you have talent, and AI, like the open source AI community has been largely pioneered by China. Like China has been shipping out the most releases, the most models, the most research papers. And if you look at like the DeepSeek paper, like it's one of the most cited papers, this is a lot of innovation, a lot of optimizations that came from China. So it's not just about the data. Data is very important, and we can touch on that a bit more later, because I have a lot of hot takes about data and like how you shouldn't be using closed source companies for your best data. But that's just one piece of the equation. So yes, if they shut down the access, make distillation harder, it's going to be a bit harder for these Chinese companies to get that data, but that's only one piece. And don't get me wrong, they're also hurting themselves, because when they close GPT 5.6 and Fable access, guess what? More and more people are trying GLM 5.2. And then all of the providers who are hosting GLM 5.2 are getting that traffic instead. So America is going to get less and less data. Sure, there's going to be less distillation, but it's also going to be less things to distill. And if you think about it, all of the closed source models are doing distillation. They took away all of humanity's knowledge, all of humanity's art, all of their music, code, philosophy, literature, and distilled it into these models like GPT and Claude. And they kept them closed source, and they're using them for profit, and they're not even releasing them. The argument in the past was like, oh, don't worry, we stole away all your knowledge, all your tokens, and we're going to give it to you as a super powerful model that you can use, can ask anything. That was the argument even a couple of months ago, and people were happy with that social contract. But now that they're not even releasing the best models, and they're using them just for their own gain or for their own government, which usually is controlled by some foreign entities, but let's not get into that, then people are really pissed.
So I want to close on this point. And I don't know how things are going to look in the future. I can say that we know these models are getting better and better. The open source models, I mean, you got to be able to host them. You got to be able to download it. You got to, so eventually, so they are getting better. So I think it's going to come to a point where the hardware, the technology, definitely, I think businesses are going to have their own models and run their own models and host them. So I believe that's coming. And, you know, then eventually they'll start updating, kind of like operating systems. So they'll have their own models that they use in-house, they're open source. They've got the hardware to, you know, run it. And then the frontier companies will have these super powerful models that, you know, you may ask pay $1,000 to ask it a question or to set something up for you. And I think that's how they'll make money, as well as people, subscriptions, people using their models on the day-to-day. So I think there's going to be different frameworks around this. And I think also tokens, we get more compute. I think the cost is going to go down. It has gone down. It's expensive. So if you look at the higher end models, definitely they're more expensive. However, the pricing, I believe, will go down and we'll see more use, particularly with what I understand is coming with the streaming, where the agents will be able to work extremely fast, you know, on tasks. And you have to think about it. Really, what's holding a lot of that back is us. We're the bottleneck. I mean, the computer could probably do a lot of things a lot faster, but there's a lot of effort to show us what it's doing and to give us the opportunity to micromanage and to get in the way sort of what's happening, when it could just go and just take care of things. So I wonder what you think. Love to hear your thoughts and comments. As usual, if you like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. All right, have a great one.